Welcome to Drinking Bros, presented by GhostBed.com. Welcome to Drinkin' Bros, kids. We got Zakk Wylde on the show today. One of the most famous guitarists in the history of guitar, Stan.
Yeah.
That's what I tell the wife and the kids when I come in the house. They go, "That's wonderful, Uncle Frank. Now go bring the garbage out."
I think we should get a WWE championship belt with the guitar on it for this motherfucker.
Yeah. So before we got on air today, I go, "How do we announce him?" And Dan goes, one of the most famous guitarists in the history of guitars. We'll go that route. And I was like,
"Oh well, my wife's in the room. Just mention one of the greatest husbands of all time." That's why I wear my WWE belt going into the bedroom, into the Black Label Love Dojo, to secure Black Label victory.
Yeah,
Black Label Love Dojo.
I like that a lot.
Yeah, that's not bad.
Yes.
I like that a lot. I'm gonna go old school here. Because look, everybody loves you. You were commonly known as one of the greatest of all time. How did you get started, and what age did you pick up a guitar?
Actually, I picked it up when I was 8, but then didn't. I didn't apply myself or anything. It's just something your parents. I had awesome parents. So, it was just in regard to they'd introduce you to things, and if it sticks, then good for you. You find out what your passion is and what you like. But at 8 years old, I was more into hanging out with my friends, playing wiffle ball, going swimming, and hanging out. So, probably when I was about 14 is when I came back to it, when I couldn't, playing football, between Pop Warner and the guys I loved was like Randy White, Jack Lambert, Dick Butkus. And my goal at that point was I was either going to go to Maryland University or either Penn State or Ohio State, because that's linebacker university. So,
sure.
But Randy White went to Maryland. So I was either I had it all planned out. I was either going to one of those colleges, and then I was going to be a middle linebacker, and then retire, then go into the broadcasting booth. And then, but no, I couldn't put the weight on because I had yet to discover female growth hormone at that point. Mm-hmm. And, so I went over to coach's house at Mr. Wright. And when I was, they were going to move me to like safety or cornerback. And I was like, no, if I can't play middle linebacker, I don't want to play. So he went over there and he was talking to me. My mother was like, "Oh, Mr. Wright, do you play guitar?" There was a Les Paul sitting in the corner of the house. He was like, "Nah, I kind of noodle on like country songs, but my son Leroy is the one that plays." And Leroy came out. It was the first time I think I ever saw a guy with like long hair. He had a Harley Davidson hat on, and then just started shredding on the guitar, playing Hendrix, Zeppelin, Sabbath. And at the time, I think Oz had just started with Randy. And, so he started playing Crazy Train and everything. And to physically see it in front of me was a whole nother ball of wax. It's just like seeing magic tricks on TV or whatever. And then you guys doing them right in front of me. And I just like completely blown away. And so it was like right there and then I was just like, this is what I want to do with my life. So I ended up studying with Leroy for about a year and a half, something like that. And then and he was great. So it was just, because he'd teach you the songs I wanted to learn. But, he would teach me the theory behind it. Like you showing me how to throw a curveball. You know what I mean? It's just like the proper way to hold it and the reason why you're throwing your arm and the reason why you have to, twist your wrist and hold it, where you're teaching me the proper way to throw it. So
sure. He
was awesome. So, working with Leroy and then, training your ear and then, how you can hear open strings and this and that. That's, the way, when you're playing certain things on the guitar, it's like, oh, so that's the way he's doing it. So, where he would definitely take the mystery out of the whole thing and then, just really break it down. But I studied with him for a bit and then, and the rest, obviously, you start learning things on your own. So, but next thing you know, I met Ozzie when I was 19. I was a steroid dealer at the time when, he was entering powerlifting contests. So Oz was like, "I didn't know you played guitar." And I said, "I didn't know either." And he just said, "Well, how about this? I'll give you a gig in my band if you give me half off on the steroids." I said, I could do that. And next thing you know, here we are 30 years later. I'm still supplying him with steroids. And he's, hopefully he's going to be ready to roll in January to get him back out to try and beat his personal, best in the bench, squat, and deadlift.
Yeah, that dude is a machine. So our buddy, I don't know if you've run into him on tour before, but our buddy Burt Koontz used to be Ozzie's his bodyguard, right? He's a former First Special Forces Group guy. He owns Peacemaker Trading, Bison Union Trading, if you've heard of any of those. He tells us these stories about being on the road on tour or in when he and Jack were filming across the
country,
about how Ozzie would just be on the elliptical like he was a 15-year-old and wouldn't stop for like 2 straight hours. And Bert's like, dude, what the fuck is happening right now? This dude's 70. He's 70 years old.
Yeah.
He's making me look like a bitch. That dude is a machine. Like, no shit. He is one of the more driven people in all of entertainment. I don't think anybody knows because he's got such a wild ass reputation. People don't know how hard he works on stuff.
Yeah.
No, so I remember he changed his name. Because if Oz commits himself to something, it really is the truth. No matter, I'm talking, we could edit even during the Animal House years, during the drinking days and everything else that was going on between the Viagra, the Cialis, the booze, and everything else we're doing, and the steroids and everything. But the whole thing is, no matter how lumped up and banged up from berserking the night before, the boss, like when my dad was a World War II vet, D-Day, Omaha Beach, the whole 9 yards, cut from the same cloth. Their leg could be hanging off. My father would rip his tooth right out of his head. Like, instead of going to a dentist, it's like he'd be warming up pliers over the burner.
Jesus Christ.
My wife, Barbara, would go, Dad, what are you doing? He goes, I'll be fine. Because we'd be smelling ambisol throughout the house. He'd go into the bathroom, you'd hear, and he'd come out. He'd have the tooth like this.
Oh.
And he'd go, see, that's what we do out in the fields. Like, he goes, there was no medics or anything like that. We just rip it right out. So, I mean, but like Ozzy's same thing. No matter how banged up we'd get the night before, the boss would never complain. We'd just get up on stage and do what we'd have to do. And, but it's just like, Oz, if he committed himself to something, like the next day, no matter if it was the boozing, he'd shut it off and then like, well, I got to lose this, I'm going to get ripped or whatever. And I remember he changed his name to Red Snapper because that's all he just ate was red snapper and rice for like 2 months, every day, just 4 times a day, red snapper, rice. And that was when we were doing a No More Tour store. He went from like, whether he was probably 180, 170 or something down to like 140. Like he was as ripped as like Bruce Lee. I remember on that tour. I mean, like he was getting ready for a motion picture or something. I mean, it was pretty hilarious. But I mean, yeah, that's the way he rolls though.
It's so wild because, we did a gig with, Jack has been on the show numerous times. And we did a gig down in Jacksonville, Florida. I forget the name of the concert. It was some festival with you guys, and you guys were headlining with Foo Fighters. Foo Fighters was on the next night there.
Was that 2016? 17?
Maybe 17 or 18, yeah. All of this, like, pre-pandemic now seems like a fucking catalog of shit. And so we were backstage, for the entire day, and I got to see the routine that Dan was talking about of him on the elliptical. The other thing I got to see was his vocal warm-ups. Like, he takes that very, very seriously. Backstage, and everybody has to clear out so he can do his vocal reps and shit. Yeah,
without a doubt. Boss he's the best. I mean, because like every time night we go up there, he wants to do the best gig he can.
Yeah, so. And it didn't. He was a little bit under the weather that day, but to your point of no matter how banged up or whatever, like, I mean, he was not in great shape that day. And we were down in the pit kind of taking pictures, and they had given us access for the show and everything. I mean, you could see him in between songs just blowing snot rockets, coughing up his fucking lungs, and then singing his heart out for the songs, making it through the songs, and then moving on. The guy's a true fucking professional.
No, he's my hero, man. I mean, him and my father, I've been up, I mean, I can't tell you how many times on stage, but he's never quit. Ever quit. Well, I just thought he was either going to go, I can't sing. I can't do the show. And somehow miraculously just pulls John Paul II, throws down a couple prayers upon him, and then he gets through the whole gig. It's pretty amazing, man. But it's just, he's never quit though, man. That's why I love him. There is no quit in him, bro. General Patton would love him, man. I'm telling you right now.
And here was my biggest takeaway from it, and you can tell me if this is the truth or not. I had told everybody that we were with, and then I had said it on that show, that it appears to me as if he loves it so much that he wants to die on stage, and that's how he wants to go out. You know him better than anybody. Is that the truth? Because look, I think he was 69 or maybe 69 at the time. To still do this night after night, you either have to love it or you need money. He clearly does not need money, and he's just doing it for the love of the game.
Yeah, I mean, I think, but Keith Richards said it best, though. Everyone was just like, why are you guys still, Keith doesn't need the money. They're going out, and I mean, Charlie just passed away. You know what I mean? And it's just like, but the whole thing is, they love playing, and Keith said, he goes, why would I retire from something I love doing?
Yeah.
Like you said, like you're going to retire from drinking beer at the bar. Like Zakk, I enjoy it. I have my friends down there and I have a good time. What am I retiring from? Just, it really is the truth. I mean, I understand in sports, you know what I mean? Like whether we're playing football or anything like that, between the knee surgeries, back surgeries, everything, and then we're done. You know what I mean? But now we move on to, now you're the head coach of the New York Giants. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. And it's just like, Lawrence Taylor Lawrence is like, dude, I'm just not as fast as I used to be. I can't, I'm done, dude. It's enough. Dick Butkus, you know what I mean? Where he's just like, dude, I'm done. So it's just like, instead, now he's the head coach of the Chicago Bears. Then you move on from there. Then you're general manager. Then you move on from there. Then the three of us now, we own a team. We own the New York Giants. So that now we're involved with the trades, and we're still winning Super Bowls, but we're involved in a whole different mindset now. You know what I mean? So it's kind of, because we love being around it.
Sure.
So there's nothing you want to retire from, because we love the game. So it's just like, we can't play anymore. But I mean, it's just like, you still love being around it and being like Michael Jordan. He still loves being involved. You know what I mean? It's just on a different level now.
Yeah, this is a good segue. I was going to ask, because of where you grew up, I assumed you would be either a Jets or a Giants fan. So you're a Giants fan.
Yeah, Giants and Yankees. I mean, but because obviously growing, I think it's with all of us, it pretty much works out like whoever your father was pretty much a fan of. You know what I mean?
Well, that's who you get to watch.
Like if your dad was a fan of the Green Bay Packers, you know what I mean? Yeah. Grew up and then you live in Seattle now, and it's like, how did you become a Packer fan? It's like, well, because we moved from Wisconsin. My dad was always a Packer guy, and so I became a Packer guy.
Yeah, he's the one that bought the tickets and had the remote control. So that's what I watched.
Well, exactly. So you're going to be a Packer fan. I don't care where you're living. So pretty much that. But Yankees and the Giants.
It's been some lean years for the Giants.
Oof, yeah.
Yankees are doing all right.
They're on Thursday night. They're on Thursday Night Football this week. So.
Against the Washington football team. Yeah, somebody's going to win their first game of the year in that game.
They goddamn right they are. Hey, since you brought up Charlie Watts earlier, let me ask you this: If Ozzie were to go, would you then retire? Or would you try to move on to a different band?
No. Well, I mean, Oz is like it's bigger than music. With my relationship with him and Mrs. O, or I refer to as mom. But I mean, no, they know. I mean, if they left the house and they had like business to do, they're like, exactly, do us a favor and just come over and make sure the dogs are fed and everything's all right. It's like, yeah, whatever you need me to do. So whether I'm in the band or not, I mean, even when Gus was in the band, who I'm buddies with, I mean, it's just like, I still talk to Oz on Father's Day and on his birthday, and talk to Mom on her birthday and Mother's Day. I just wish her great, happy Mother's Day and everything. So, so my relationship with him it's bigger than the music. But I mean, I like you said, I'll always be here for him.
If he passed away, because that's been a big debate here with the Rolling Stones, with Charlie Watts, of would they continue on? The answer is yes, and they're going to. They're doing U.S. tour dates, and they're ironically ending in Austin, Texas here, and we have tickets to that show.
Well, Oz said, we talked about it one day, and he said, well, Zakk, he goes, what I picture is just me doing my thing, the peace signs, and then just taxidermy me and just stick me up there. And then we'll do what we gotta do.
Just bronze him. Just bronze
Yes,
him.
taxidermy.
Yeah.
And he just
That's not surprising at all, to be honest.
yeah.
No.
We won't do the hologram tour. It's the taxidermy tour. Just taxidermy him, and then lightly put him back in the case at the end of the night. Make sure don't break the fingers or anything like that. You know what I mean?
Turn him into a
Obviously.
puppet. Turn him into a puppet with the.
Oh, coming down from that'd
Why
be
not?
nice. Yeah.
Or maybe the arms come off. You know what I mean? I'm just saying, so because we don't break the hands. You know? Arms come off, we just stick them in the case.
Yeah, it's a
glue the boss back together the next gig and just put him, wheel him out. You
Why
know?
not? Why not? Yeah, because it's a fascinating thing. I feel like all of our favorites are getting old. They're all into their 70s now. I mean, you know, with the Stones, the Beatles. I just watched that McCartney doc. You know, he finally came out and did a doc about every single song, and it almost felt like it was to get his story out. He's 79 years old. It almost felt like he just wanted to get his story out about every song about the Beatles. Here's everything you wanted to know that I never answered over the years, and congratulations.
Yeah, now I can check out. Yeah. Without anyone ever asking me again, the history has been laid out.
Yes. And then, you know, with Ozzie obviously hitting 70 and all that stuff and the way he's raged, you know, because everybody thought him and Keith would be gone by now, let's face it.
Yeah, but they've done a really good job of taking care of themselves outside of that stuff. Like, he's talking about steroids and shit, but Ozzie's been getting stem cells for years. He does all sorts of shit, and so did Keith for years.
Yeah.
Like, since the 80s.
Yeah.
He's been getting blood transfusions and all this other bullshit that people are just now like, oh, shit, you can do that? Like, yeah, you can fucking do it, dude.
Yeah.
I mean, and the workouts and stuff. It's all of our memories are of Ozzie fucking in berserker mode. But in reality, for the last however long, he's been taking pretty good care of himself,
It is
right?
pretty crazy because like you talk about the whole berserker mode, right? And the drinking bros and everything like that. You know, I remember like I'm 54 now, and when I was 42, you know, I got these blood clots, and I remember we were on the road. I was like, my back of my leg. I was like, what the hell's going on here, right? So we had like a 24-hour bus ride, and when we were in the sub, I was like, I mean, this was hurting for a couple of days, so I just figured it was from us being berserking at some Irish pub that we were at on a day, and I'm doing David Lee Roth splits off the bar, and then we're having piss drinking contests and, you know, winning cash and everything like that. So I'm figuring I must have done it when we were out rolling the other night berserking. So I mean, the whole thing is, I just figure, you know how it rolls. You don't complain about it. We keep doing the shows. Just pour some beer on it. We'll be fine.
Yeah.
So it was still hurting for a couple of days, and I'm doing the right thing, you know. It's just like I'm putting ice on it and everything like that, elevating it, you know, doing the right thing that we should do.
Sure.
While having a cocktail and another Crown and Ginger, you know what I mean? So we're just sitting there, and I remember I was with Philly. He takes care of us. I go, Phil, let's go hit the doctor. Just go to the ER to just get like a scan on my leg, see what because it's not going away, pain. So they did like one of the scope things that, you know, they do on ultrasound that they do when when your wife's pregnant and stuff like that. So they did that on the back of my leg, and he goes, oh yeah, he's like jackass, you got like 3 blood clots in the back of your leg, like behind your knee, like right below your calf, and then going into your heel. And I was like, oh wow. And I was like, blood clots? I was like, I thought you get that like when you're 90 years old or something, right? And he just goes, no. He goes, no, you can get it from sitting down.
Yeah.
You know, if you're a truck driver and you're stationary in one spot. And I go, well, I don't drive a truck and I'm not stationary like that. And then I thought about it for a second. I go, well, there's the 3 of us sitting down when we're at the Irish pub. And when I'm practicing, I'm sitting down.
Yeah.
And when we're back at the Irish pub, I'm sitting back down. So, you know, I'm just putting all that in. And I go, I guess there is some sitting down. And then when we're in the sub, sitting down, having cocktails, solving the problems of the world, driving 14 hours, you know, there's the 3 of us sitting up front, drinking, listening to tunes, figuring out. So, I mean, I go, well, maybe it's that. And he just goes, I remember at the time when I went to this one doctor, you know, I had the Immortal Beloved with me. And he goes, and she's going, God, I hope he's got to stop drinking at some point. And so I remember that I go to the doctor. He goes, well, Zakk, he goes, let me just ask you this. How do your parents have this blood clot thing? And I go, well, I wouldn't know, doc. They're both up in God's Tavern. So I have no idea. And he goes, well, I don't know how to say this as a doctor, but all your years of heavy drinking, by thinning your blood, may have saved your life. And that's when I look at Barb and I go, see, drinking is good for something, honey.
It's too bad. It's too bad you didn't have a football with you at the time. You could have just spiked
exactly.
it right there.
Without a doubt. But there was zero laughter in the peanut gallery. But but that was the end of the drinking for me right there. So but the whole thing is, I knew like all my buddies that were berserking none of them have, unless they stopped or chilled or actually just probably pretty much stopped, none of them made it to 50. Any of my friends, none of them made it to 50. 49, 47, 48, never crossed the 50 barrier. All liver failure. Done. Gone. Berserking.
Man, but you did it. You're 54, and here you are. I had one of those
and, like
blood
people.
clots.
I stopped at 42, but I mean the whole thing is my buddies were like this. They go, Zakk, do you have a good support team around you, to help you? And I go, yeah. What did your friends say to you? I go, did they support you? I go, yeah. They're like, Zachy, it's a shame, buddy. We lost a drinking partner, but we gained a designated driver. Jackass, come pick us up. We'll be at the Irish pub in about 6 hours. Come get us at McSorley's, bro. But yeah,
I love McSorley's.
The guys are very supportive. Very supportive.
That's funny. So you're on what, 12 years now? You've been sober for 12 years?
Yeah, 12 years. People were just like this, good for you. And I go, bad for me. But yeah, just funny, man. I mean, because I drink I was drinking case and a half a day. Then we would be, and we're rolling. I mean, it would just shows the whole 9 yards. Never missed a gig, man. So I mean, it was just like, people were like, God, do you feel sick and tired of being sick and tired? I go, no, never felt sick and tired. I just wake up with a nice glow, man. What are you kidding me? I never woke up with a headache ever.
You never slept.
Yeah, because with the immortal woman, she goes, that's because you never stopped.
Yeah.
No, I didn't.
Yeah,
I could feel it coursing through me, man. So, I mean, but it was just, we never missed a gig, never missed nothing like that. But I mean, but the whole thing is, the guy, he just said at the end, though, he just goes, Zakk, I'm telling you right now, man, you're 42. He goes, I'm looking at your liver enzymes and your pancreas. You either have, a liver transplant before you're 45. And he goes, and your pancreas ain't too far behind. The guys either die on this table or they die. They can say goodbye to everybody. Or you go listen to your Led Zeppelin records and, fondle your genitals and fist yourself and check your prostate and, hang out with your family and your dogs and your buddies. And I go, well, I definitely love Led Zeppelin and I definitely love fisting my prostate and checking out and making sure I'm healthy. And he goes, well, good. We'll pick door number 3. So that was about it. So since then, I've still been listening to Jimmy Page and fisting my prostate.
Yeah,
so,
I was going to ask how the fisting was going.
The fisting still going
wonderful. Wonderfully. I check it out. People are like, Zakk, we already did the exam today. I go, I know. I'm coming back for number 2.
Yeah,
maybe number 3.
Get a second opinion.
Yeah, I had one of those blood clots, by the way, in the leg, and they gave me some blood thinner for it. That's what got rid of it. And it's no joke, man. Look, I couldn't fly, I think, for like 6 months.
But I can't tell you when I couldn't believe how many of my friends got them. Mm-hmm. Like how common this thing is. And I was like, wow. One of my buddies passed away from it. Rick Parrish, who produced the Pride and Glory record. He worked with Pearl Jam and everything like that. Did that 10 record and everything.
No shit.
It was awesome.
Yeah.
Rick went and laid down. He was like, man, I got a headache or something. Went and laid down. Blood clot.
Yep.
Gone.
Yep. And mine was writing in a prone position. And, I knew what I was doing every single night, for hours and hours and hours, and sitting down at a desk, and they tell you to go up and do things. With you, again, it's surprising simply because you are on stage so much and you're exerting so much energy. Because my doctor was like, look, just walk around for like an hour and a half in between like writing sessions and blah blah blah.
Yeah,
but with you are on stage. I mean, just ripping it every single fucking night. I'm surprised it did happen to you though, actually.
Yeah, but like you said, I think it's also it's a genetic thing too. You know what I mean? Whether your parents had it or whatever, runs in your family or whatever. Yeah. So, but it's weird. I never went for a doctor checkup to see if I had anything like that. You know what I mean? It just like happened in one day. So, and I actually had three pulmonary emboli. I had 3 of them go through my lungs.
Oh Jesus, that's the most dangerous.
Actually went through my heart. Yeah. 3 of them.
Yeah.
So,
Man. Look, when you're on the road, what is your favorite song?
Actually, I
to
told
play?
the wife, after the one time I was in the hospital, after I had the third one, she walked in the room and I was like, "I'm still here. I'm still here." You put the champagne down.
You can't
crack
cash that
that
life
thing open
insurance.
just yet.
Yeah, nah, the life insurance can't have that just yet, honey. I love you, but you can't have it.
Keep those Led Zeppelin posters up on the wall. They can't come down yet.
What is your favorite song when you're on the road playing with Ozzy? Is there one every night that gets you where you're like, "Fuck, man, I love this. This is my one jam."
Well, no, I love it all, man. I mean, when we walk out, and do the first song, I mean, whether it's I Don't Know or Bark at the Moon, we used to open up with, I remember for No More Tours, I remember Paranoid we used to open up with. That was pretty insane. But I mean, no, the whole thing. And then when we break out the double neck for Mama, I'm Coming Home and everything, I love the whole thing. I mean, just every night up there, I cherish it with him. He's the best.
Yeah, it's got to be a dream come true where you're just like, how does your life get any better playing with Ozzy Osbourne?
No, my whole thing is, like when I auditioned, like other guys would be talking about, oh man, I hear it's, they were using it more or less as a career move and everything. I was like 19, 20 years old when I auditioned. So for me, it was like no different than if I was, me being a huge Thurman Munson fan. And then I'm number 15 in Little League. I play on the Yankees in Little League. And then now I'm catching for the New York Yankees.
Right.
And standing right where my hero stood.
How competitive is it to be the New York Yankees in Little League in New Jersey? How do you decide? Do you guys take turns each year? How does that work?
but like, I mean, so I mean, that's I mean, I always viewed being an Ozzy guitar player the way, Randy set the standard. He's the Babe Ruth of Ozzy guitar players. So I mean, that's why I always say it's the house that Rhodes built. So, to put that uniform on, to me, I always looked at it as like putting Yankee pinstripes on. What's expected out of you when you put that uniform on?
Yeah. Look, again, he was one of the best. And when you're filling those shoes, is it tough? When you first step out there, you're like, oh shit, the fans are going to hate me.
Well, no, I mean, me being such a huge Randy fan, you know what I mean? So like, I never came in, so it just, I'm like a Randy guy that just happened. Now I'm wearing the uniform, you know what I mean? So it's just like, no, I didn't, there was none of that. Cause we all love Randy and we all support him. So no, it wasn't anything like that.
I meant, were you personally nervous by it?
Well, no, I mean,
it's such a huge gig. I mean, that's like you said, it's like playing for the Yankees. Like it had to have been wild stepping out on stage the first time. And then you're playing next to Ozzy Osbourne.
Yeah. Just looking at the large picture of the whole thing. But
Yeah.
I think it's just like with the three of us. If we were playing in the Super Bowl, we just got to look at it as another game. If you look at it as the Super Bowl, it's a big game. It's a big game. Every game's a big game, man. You know what I mean? Otherwise, you're going to get swallowed by the hype and and you're not going to be relaxed. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
You just have to be relaxed. It was like when even with Ted Williams, like the ump said to him when they, because they didn't take him out when he had when he was batting 400. He could have sat him out, but he didn't.
No, he had 406.
At the end, and the ump just looked at him. He said, "If you want to bat 400, you just got to relax."
Yeah.
Actually, he said that to him.
He was. It was. I think there was 4 games left, and he was he was batting 399.87, so it would have been rounded up to 400. And he played those 4 games anyway, and ended up 406. His last guy to hit 400.
Yeah.
He's a
But
stud.
he had a chance of losing it.
Yeah.
And
and
the ump just looked at him while he was brushing the plate. And he looked at Ted and just said, "Son, if you want to bat 400, you just got to relax." And it's the truth. You just got to relax, man.
Yeah.
So no, I mean, that's why we say, like, even any kids that get nervous before a gig or something like that when you're young, they're like, "Do you have any advice before we go on?" I go, "Yeah. How was rehearsal?" And they're like, "It was great." I go, "Yeah. You don't get nervous when you rehearse, do you?" I go, "No." I go, "Then do that."
Yeah.
Just do that.
Yeah. Well, that's
You know what I mean? Why? Like practice was great yesterday. You were throwing. There wasn't one thing you threw that was over, under any. You were just throwing perfect. Like why should it be any different today when we're playing a game?
But I think that mindset and being able to lock in like that is what differentiates good people, good players, good performers, whatever, from great ones, right?
No, I agree. I mean, like when you look at Joe Montana,
Yeah.
and so Joe Cool, right?
Yep.
Or nothing for nothing. I mean, Roger Staubach. I remember Drew Pearson said he just goes, man, whenever the pressure was on and it was like we were going to lose and it was just like, no, we're done. It was just like Roger would come right back from Tom Landry. He'd come in the huddle. He'd get down on a knee and he'd look at all of them and he goes, we all looked at each other and we knew everything was going to be okay.
That must be what it's like to be in a huddle with Tom Brady when you're down a couple of points and he's got the ball with 2 minutes on the clock.
Well, look at with the Falcons when he was down 623 points at half.
Oh boy!
And they came back.
He's a big Falcons fan, and he was at that game.
Oh, I'm a diehard Falcons fan. I was at.
You know
that
what
game.
I loved about that game? What I loved about that game is just that how the Falcons just completely abandoned. It was like, wait. All we need to do is run the ball, and Brady won't be on the field.
Yeah,
it's like, let's just throw as many times as possible and stop the clock, and actually maybe a couple interceptions and see what happens.
And I appreciate all this, Zach.
Do you know how many times
like
we've had this exact conversation?
Every 2 weeks, a guest comes on and talks about, man, you remember that one fucking Super Bowl, the 28th? Sure do. I was there. Worst day of my life. I
watched when me and JD were watching that game. We were watching them run. I go, they've got no answer to these running backs. I go, this is going to be brutal because they couldn't stop them. I mean, it was just like when the Giants played the Bills. The game is 60 minutes. The Giants had the ball for 59 minutes and 18 seconds and almost still lost the game, on the field goal. But what I'm just saying is because they had no answer for stopping the run.
Right.
Nothing.
Yeah.
And then how they abandoned that, I have no idea.
I'll tell you this. This is a dead serious story. I'm in a Fox suite at that game. All the Patriots fans had left. Mark Wahlberg was next to us. He took his whole fucking family
you must
out
have
of
been rubbing it right up in Mark's face.
No, I didn't because you're separated, right? You're separated by a partition. And he's got like 90 kids and his wife was there. Third quarter, they ripped him out of there. He's like, fuck this, I'm out of here, right? Later on, he goes on to tell a story that his kid was sick and they had to fly home in the private jet. It's bullshit. They were losing 28-3, and he was like, I can't stand to see this. Every Patriots fan thought that this was the end of Tom Brady, and my hero was going to die in front of me on the field, and this is it, blah, blah, blah. All I wanted to do was with you, like I was a Falcons fan in the stand. I honestly thought about running onto the field and just screaming at Shanahan, the offensive coordinator, and just saying, just run the fucking ball. I knew I would get arrested, but I knew it would create enough time.
It would save the Falcon destiny.
Yes, of just run the fucking ball, because then it would have snapped him out of whatever the fuck was going on and just run the fucking ball. But I couldn't get down to the field or any of that, and I'm high and I'm upstairs and I'm like, dude, that's not a realistic possibility.
The crazy thing was it wasn't like there was no running game. It's not like they were just stopping.
No, they had Devonta Freeman and Tevin.
We're forced to have to pass.
We had a great running game.
No, you had two amazing running backs, not just one. Two.
Yes, that's wild.
You had Walter Payton and Larry Zonka back there, and we're passing.
Oh boy!
Wait, we don't need these guys.
No, why bother? Shanahan had already took that job at the 49ers.
That Super Bowl was beyond, and not only that, for them to have to pull that off, they had to get the 2-point conversions. They had to get everything had to happen.
The catch with Edelman and the whole fucking. Let's talk about that for 3 more hours. I'm kidding.
Well, I'm a New York Giant guy, so we won twice. So
yeah, you're good. You're good. And Eli, I watched Eli last night on ESPN2. He's got a new gig doing the Monday Night Football on the alt feed. It was great. I watched.
Let me ask you guys this. Mm-hmm. Does Eli
first ballot Hall of Fame.
Make the Hall of Fame?
First ballot Hall of Fame.
I'm with you on this.
But wait, look at his season stats though. I love him just because he was cool as a cucumber in those 2 Super Bowls.
2 times.
And no one counted him. No one gave him a chance.
So
what I'm saying is, even though he won the 2, does his numbers?
Yes. So it's not
the
season stats.
If you remove those 2 Super Bowls, does he make the Super Bowl?
Yes.
No.
It's not a season. It's not a season stats. It's his career stats. Like he's almost top 10, 15 in every single category, and then he has the 2 Super Bowls.
Dan Fouts making the Hall of Fame, I understand.
Right.
I mean, he's thrown for like around the earth 15 times in yardage. So Dan Fouts, Hall of Famer, and never winning. I don't care if he ever won a playoff game. he's Hall of Fame.
Pull up Eli's numbers.
Eli doesn't have Dan Fouts.
Well, there's 5 people in the history of the NFL that have won 2 Super Bowl MVPs, and Eli Manning's one of them. Bradshaw's one of them. Joe Montana. I don't remember who else. Brady, obviously. Probably. Hold on, look it up.
You know who hasn't? Anyone from the Falcons.
Yeah.
Not one person
Bart
from the
Starr's
Falcons.
the other one. So Tom Brady's got 4, Montana's got 3, Bart Starr 2, Terry Bradshaw and Eli Manning both also have 2.
And Peyton Manning, his brother.
Peyton does not have 2 Super Bowl MVPs.
Oh, no, that's right.
Eli
MVPs. You're
Yeah.
correct.
Eli
Now, when
Manning.
does Eli go? When does Eli go up for eligibility?
2 years
2 years,
now?
yeah.
Eli Manning is in the top 10 all time in passing yards and passing touchdowns.
Yeah, and his peak. So he
okay.
had a couple of down years, but his peak seasons together are some of the best peak seasons in the history of the NFL.
Then there you go.
I mean,
Yeah.
he's. I'm not a huge fan of his, to be honest, but man, it worked out.
Yeah.
Right? They put together some good teams in New York those years.
No, I mean, and you got to remember how clutch he was when he needed to be clutch.
Yep.
He was clutch.
And all you care about is championships. I'd be remiss if I didn't ask you this. I heard you auditioned for Guns N' Roses.
No, it's not an audition. I mean, because we all know each other, and you know what I mean. But it is, Slash isn't going to audition for anybody. We know what he can do. You know what I mean? If the New York Giants want Slash, we know he's a great tight end, so we know he can catch. You know what I mean?
So I'm glad you brought this up because do you know as guitarists that you can mesh together like that? Like how does it work with the other guitarists? Is there no audition process? Do you just ask somebody to come in?
I mean, just because I was friends with Slash and Duff. I had never met Axl at that point, but I mean, and I knew Steven Adler at the time, and I also knew Matt. So, but yeah, I guess, they were tossing around names like who do you think we should get, play guitar in a band or whatever, and it's just like Slash, they were going, well, I guess, I don't know, whatever, because at that point you're just thinking of who your friends are, you know what I mean? So it's just like, why don't we call Zakk up or whatever? And Axl was like, yeah, I'll call him. And I remember Axl called me up. I remember we were working on Osmosis album, and Axl was like, hey, Zakk, what's up, man? I was like, oh, dude, what are you doing? So, we were just talking. He's like, yeah, you want to jam with the guys or what? I said, yeah, sure. I said, well, when I get back from tracking with the boss, when we were in New York at the time, I said, I'll come down and we'll jam some stuff out. So, but yeah, we were jamming and stuff like that, and doing some stuff over at Duff's house and everything. But like that was sitting, there was nothing concrete because it was just sitting around for a little while. That was before Chinese Democracy and everything like that. That was like 95.
Sure.
So, we were just sitting around and nothing was happening. And I was just like, bro, are we going to do this or not? Because I mean, like, I can't be sitting around forever. And at that point I wasn't playing with Oz. Was like, Zakk, are you going to be playing with the fellas? Or are you rolling with me? What are we doing here?
Yeah.
And Oz was like, Zakk, you know what, Zakk, I got to make a move. He goes, I'm going to get Gus in here to play guitar. And I was like, all right, Oz, I'm always here for you or whatever. So, but anyway, so Gus was playing with him and we were sitting around. We had nothing going on. I was just like, I had like Norm. I had an insane, outstanding drinking tab that I had to pick up. I'm like, bro, I can't just be sitting around here. I got tabs I got to pay. So, so the whole thing is, that's pretty much when Black Label Society was born. So I was just like, I'll just do it myself. You know what I mean? Hell with it. So that's pretty much, and here we are. Black Label's been rolling around now, 22 years now. So
yeah, because and the reason I ask is like, can two greats get together? You always hear about the egos and rock and roll and all this other shit, and I can't remember somebody like you and Slash. Like, is there any other band that's gotten together with two massive guitarists like that and being able to pull it off?
Yeah, the Yardbirds, Jimmy Page,
Jeff Beck and Eric. They broke up real fucking quick.
When we're rolling with, when we do the Generation X thing, you got Yngwie, you got Steve Vai, you got Tosin, you got Nuno, and and me. So we're all, but like we all, in that situation, we all support each other and we're all friends and we're all buddies. So it's just like, in that regard, when we're all together like that, it's almost like pretty much like a football team or a base, we're all supporting each other and everybody has a role and everybody knows what they have to do. Whether you're at the tight end, you got Lawrence Taylor over here, you got Dick Butkus over here, Jack Lambert over there, you got Randy White. Like everybody knows what they've got to do. That's kill the quarterback. So, aside of that, it just, everybody supports each other. So, But I mean, with Slash, I mean, we're buddies and everything like that, and I love Slash's playing, and he's a friend. So I mean, the whole thing is, but there's nobody else that could play those solos. You know, November Rain and Sweet Child of Mine. There's only one guy that could play that, and that's him.
Yeah, it's
You know what
inside.
I mean? It would have to be new stuff moving on or whatever. But yeah, what they created is just legendary stuff.
Well, since you brought up all the guys you were on tour with there, I've always wondered who great guitarists think is the best guitarist they've ever seen. And
Yes,
and
so do I.
And why?
Yeah.
Because I've asked a lot of people this. I've heard like Michelangelo at the Guitar Institute of Technology, but if people are into like the math rock, like the really fast stuff, or people that are a little older, you know, like somebody else, I'm just curious who you liked aside from the people
I think
that you grew up with.
well, Father Vai, Steve Vai actually said it best. It's like it's not who's the best, who's your favorite.
Right?
Like how can you separate the pure utter devastation of King Edward playing Eruption and then David Gilmour playing Comfortably Numb,
Right.
the solo in that.
Yeah.
I'm saying each one of them are equally as devastating. You know what I mean?
Yep.
So it's just like
who's the better painter, Picasso or Michelangelo or something like that? Like, come on.
Yeah,
what does that even mean?
Yeah.
But who's your favorite? That's what I'm asking. I guess.
Yeah, who's your favorite then? So we're not asking you to pick the greatest. Who's your personal favorite?
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it's just, I love, Frank Marino from Mahogany Rush. He's definitely one of my favorites and one of my biggest influences. So Frank Marino, and then obviously you have Hendrix, Robin Trower, but I love Al Di Meola, John McLaughlin, Paco de Lucia. And then, like David Gilmour, then you got King Edward, St. Rhodes, Randy, Tony Iommi, Jimmy Page, Eric Clapton, Jeff Beck. I mean,
where does Eddie Van Halen fit in that list for you?
Well, I would think, as far as rock guitar and everything, you'd have to say greatest of all time. In regards, because you have Hendrix, it pretty much started with Dwayne Eddy and Chuck Berry and the fellas that actually changed the game. I mean, they just opened the door for they were the original guitar heroes.
Yeah, they took what Robert Johnson had been doing and put some electricity behind it.
Yeah, and like you said, if you want to go further back, I mean, there's your original guitar hero right there. You know what I mean? So it's all stemming from there. If we're looking at the history of the game, so I mean, then then you have when Jimmy came out, because I'm sure you had like the Chuck Berry fans were just like, oh, this Jimi Hendrix guy, yeah, like my little brother's into this guy. He's terrible. You know how it goes.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? They were like, oh, he needs all these pedals and he needs everything because he's not like Chuck. Chuck doesn't need any of that because he can really play. That's why, because he's a man. So you had that. So then you had Jimmy came along and Clapton and Jeff Beck and Jimmy Page. I mean, those guys, forget about it. It's lights out right there. I mean, how the devastation there. And then all of a sudden, if Jimmy is Jesus Christ, Jimi Hendrix is Jesus Christ of guitar, then the second coming was King Edward, hands down.
Yeah.
If we're going with the Catholic hierarchy right here. So, I mean, it would be, without a doubt, instead of waiting, here we are 10 years removed, and all of a sudden King Edward comes out, and it's the second coming of Christ. So it was just like, wow, there's even more tricks, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Look at this. This is insane. Even more stuff to do, because everybody thought like after Jimmy, that was the ceiling. You couldn't. There's none higher. You can't do anything more with the guitar. That's what everyone was. Pretty much was at. And then all of a sudden Ed comes out, and it's like, wow. And then all I remember, then you had Randy came out, and then when Yngwie came out, that was the other game changer right there. I mean, when Yngwie came out, it was just like, because we were all into Al Di Meola and Al's chops, and Al changed the game too. And but you got to remember, John McLaughlin and Al Di Meola, Alan Holdsworth were doing this in 1969, 1970, 71, just playing blazing lights out guitar. And then you also had Alvin Lee at Woodstock, coming home. He was like Yngwie before Yngwie, doing that in 69, bro. So, I mean, and then you had, when Yngwie came out, that was lights out. I mean, at Berkeley, they actually opened up different wards of like all these Bach things and everything, just based because of Yngwie's popularity. So yeah, I'd have to say Yngwie was probably the last game changer.
Who's your favorite?
It's like how we're looking at quarterbacks or we're looking at running backs.
Right.
You know,
who's
who's the last great, running back or whatever, like after Walter Payton, it was just like, who else, like then you had Barry Sanders, and now who are we talking about now? You know what I'm saying?
Right. Who's
like,
your?
So I'd say Yngwie was the last game changer. Steve, to me, Father Vi was the last stylist where I heard people copying him.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Or sounding like him. Whereas like you could go, wow, you must be really into Steve Vai. You know what I mean? Just him, people being influenced. But Yngwie elevated everyone's game. Like because everyone was benching 500, he came in with a 1,200 pound bench press. Like not a 600 pound bench or 550. He blew everyone away.
What was it he was doing that was so much different or better or whatever than everybody else?
Just his technique, and just the absolute his control of the instrument and how musical he is. It's not fast for the sake of being fast. It's saying something. He speaks when he plays.
Right. So you think there's probably,
and just the aggression in his playing and the balls out, he's a Viking. What can I tell you? He plays guitar like a Viking, and he is a Viking.
So we've gone through a trip through history now. What about guys that are coming into their prime right now? Is there anybody you got your eye on that you really like?
Yeah, well, I mean, Tosin, we're out on that road with Gen X. I mean, Tosin isn't a rookie anymore, but I mean, Tosin was pretty much the leader of that musical movement that's going on right now. So, I mean, Tosin's ridiculous. I mean, he's amazing. So I'd say, he was the last of that new breed that came out. And it was just like, Tosin, and then you have all these, I mean, I see there's, because somebody was saying not too long ago, guitar is dead or whatever. I mean, what you're going to do is go on social media. There's so many young, amazingly, technically insane, good players, kids. And and a musical though. I mean, it's not just that they're just playing fast and it's just a bunch of jive and they're not saying anything.
Right. I mean, that whole mathcore thing got big through the mid 2000s. And I think it was like almost like people were just racing to see how fast they could play. And some of it was they were borrowing, they were kind of mixing jazz with metal a little bit. A lot of the off-key stuff.
Yeah, I agree.
Like the Dillinger playing and stuff like that. I mean, it was interesting to hear, but there didn't feel like there's a whole lot of soul in that shit to me. Like you're talking about the way some of these guys, like Vi especially, I think that's what set him apart from a lot of the other people. The technical skill plus the drive and passion at the same time. It's like the difference between, since we're making sports metaphors, I've said this before, it's the difference between somebody like Dwight Howard and Kobe Bryant. Dwight Howard, who has all the physical gifts in the world, not too interested in playing basketball, though, for some reason. Kobe Bryant, who has all the physical gifts in the world, and he is determined to win every single thing he ever does forever. He and Jordan were unique like that. Is there anybody that's coming up like that, you think, in metal? Because I'm a big fan, right? Lamb of God has been my favorite band for a long time. Those guys are obviously very technically good as well. And
without that, the Lamb of God guys are great. But like you said, they're not rookies. You know what I mean? I mean, the guys have been hitting it for a while and working their, grinding it.
Yeah.
So, and putting the work in.
I'm just curious where metal's going right now. Where do you think it's going? Because
I don't it's always going to, because somebody was like, oh, metal's going to be gone. Or I go, but it's not true. I mean, because it's just like people, when they would always say, well, what's going to happen when Sabbath's not around? What's going to happen when Zeppelin's not around? And then all of a sudden, then you have Guns N' Roses and you have Metallica. I'm just saying, like with professional wrestling, what's going to happen when superstar Billy Graham's gone and Ivan Putski? And then all of a sudden you have the Hulkster comes along and you have Macho Man. And, then all of a sudden it's like, what's going to happen when Hulkamania walks away? Then we have the Ultimate Warrior. Then what's going to happen when the Warrior's gone? And then, then you have Stone Cold comes in. And then The Rock. And then it's like, well, what's going to happen when Stone Cold and The Rock are gone? And then now we have John Cena, and then when John's going to be gone, then you have the next crop of guys. So I think you're always going to have hungry bands and you have driven, you're either, it's just people in general. It doesn't matter. You're always going to have driven people that are lions, and you're always going to have lazy people that will fall by the wayside. And so it doesn't matter.
Well, to answer to both of this, I think it was in that McCartney doc, he said they were asking him about original guitarists coming up and why there isn't as many. Is he was like, look, there's a limited amount of chords and strings. there's, a lot of it seems to have been done unless you're borrowing and or stealing. He's like, it's hard to do new, inventive, original shit that hasn't been done before unless you're copying something else.
I mean, that's why you can rattle off. I know he can rattle off the top of his head the game changers in guitar.
Yes, right? and for your question, like I understand why you're asking, and I feel the same way because I look at the new bands that are out, like this Greta Van Fleet. A couple years ago, they were like the guys of like, oh, this is the band to save rock. When I turned it on, it is just a guy doing a fucking Zeppelin impression. Forgive me if you're friends with them at all, but that's exactly what I hear is Led Zeppelin. I mean, to the T of the guy's voice of what they're doing.
Yeah, but I think like a band like with GNR. I remember some guy wrote a review about Guns when they came out, and they go, if you would have told me that a band whose heroes are Aerosmith would be charting the top of the Billboard charts, or he goes, I would have definitely lost that bet. If somebody, he said, if you would have told me in 1975 or 76, because I guess this dude was just like this, Aerosmith's just a ripoff, a poor man's Stones, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And then he goes, and if you would have told me this band, a third generation version of a bad version of Aerosmith, is going to be the biggest band in the world. But the whole thing is, Guns N' Roses isn't reinventing the wheel. They're making a cheeseburger, but it's a really good cheeseburger. And it's the truth. Like you go out to Five Guys out in California or In-N-Out Burger. Yeah. My friends come out there and they love it. And it's just like, it's a cheeseburger, bro. How good could it be? How different is it going to be than McDonald's or Burger King? It's like, try it.
Yeah, it's quite a bit.
That's what I'm saying. So AC/DC, that you don't have to reinvent the wheel. You don't have to come up with some new invention of music, or just like the Stones, just write good songs.
Yeah.
Yeah. Is any, I wonder,
I mean, like I'm saying Van Halen. Yeah. Ed changed the game. But why are you showing up to a Van Halen concert? See Eddie do a guitar solo for 2 hours? No, you're going there to hear the songs.
Yeah.
It's the songs, man.
Yeah.
I mean, Black Sabbath, it's the songs. It's not because it's heavy. Led Zeppelin, it's the songs. I mean, you're not going to see Jimmy Page with the violin bow for 2 hours.
Right. I mean, that's the difference between. I mean, there's a lot of really great guitar players out there that have never had any real commercial success, and to me, it's the difference between being good on the driving range and being good at playing the course. You know what I mean? It's a totally
you have to have the whole thing,
yeah.
Man. And I'm just saying, like with Ozzy, with St. Rhodes, with Randy and everything like that. Randy, forget about it. Lights out, Hall of Famer. But I mean, the whole thing is, you're going to hear Crazy Train. The people that are not everybody in that crowd is a guitar player,
right?
You know what I mean? And it's just like, oh man, he's doing diminished scales. I mean, nobody knows that.
I've actually been at concerts before, some Lamb of God concerts, some actual acoustic like fingerstyle guitar concerts. And I'm looking around. I'm not even paying attention to the guitar because I play too. I'm not even looking at the guitarist. I'm watching the crowd to see if anybody realizes what the fuck they're watching, because most people have no idea how hard some of this stuff is. I'm like, holy shit, that guy.
There's people showing up at Rush concerts. Not everybody there can play drums like Neil Peart or play guitar, play bass and like Geddy or like Alex on guitar. They're going up, to hear Tom Sawyer. Because they're like, I love this song. They're not going how technical the song is. They're just going, I really like the song.
Yeah, I was going to say that about Clapton earlier. He turned into, he actually was an amazing songwriter with Cream in the beginning, but I think people kind of forgot about how good of a guitar player he was because he was so good at writing songs. Mm-hmm. People just lost sight because he was.
Yeah, and plus his voice. I mean, Eric, if he never even played guitar, if he's just a lead singer, he'd be a great lead singer. Like Michael McDonald and Greg Allman and all the guys. But
did you drop Michael McDonald on the show? Cross Sweet Freedom. That guy? Are we talking about the same Michael McDonald from the Doobie Brothers?
Michael McDonald.
The Doobie Brothers is fucking, come on. Yeah. Every fucking person that's ever picked up any kind of instrument in America can do a Michael McDonald impression, right?
Yeah,
Then half the other people can do one as well.
Well, you can only do one line of a Michael McDonald impression because the next note is too high for everybody to do. So you can only just do one. What a fool! And then the next one you don't touch.
You're done.
It's too high. You can't go anywhere. You can't go anywhere with that.
Steely Dan too.
That's funny. Who's somebody odd like that you've partied with over the years that you wouldn't expect, that you were like, man, I got fucked up with like Michael McDonald at some bar in Kansas City or
Michael
something
McDonald
like that.
tore the head off a pigeon outside.
I remember a great time. Robert Palmer, you know Robert Palmer.
Oh yeah.
Addicted to Love and everything.
Yeah.
I remember we were at it was so great. Robert Palmer, and because all the crews and everybody knows everybody. You know what I mean? Throughout the the touring year. So, well, Ozzie will know people that he'll introduce me to him. That he was like, Zakk, they worked in the road crew for Nazareth. When Black Sabbath and Nazareth did shows together in 1975, and I'm like, oh, okay, cool. Like everyone still knows each other throughout the years. So, throughout the music business world. So I mean, the whole thing is I remember we were at our crew and Robert Palmer's crew. They were together, and we were all in Japan at the time. So we were in this bar getting berserking in this bar, right? And so all the crew guys are hanging together because they worked together on different various tours and all this other stuff. So the guys are all catching up. Everyone's having a good time. So Robert Palmer comes over to Oz, and the boss is he's not 3 sheets to the wind. He's about like 43 sheets to the wind at this point. Right?
He's time traveling, right? Yeah.
The boss is completely time traveling, bro. So, whatever horse races we wanted to know who was going to win the races next week, Oz will be able, when he comes back, he'll be able to tell us who's good secretariat's going to win the crown or whatever, So Oz is sitting there blasted out of his mind, leaning back. And Robert Palmer's talking to him for 15 minutes. And we're all sitting there looking at Oz. Oz is staring up at him, and Robert Palmer's telling him all these war stories, about them back in the 70s and doing gigs together or whatever. And all of a sudden, we're all looking at the boss, and I'm going, he has no clue who he's talking to, man. And all of a sudden, Robert Palmer's like, all right, Oz, well, you take care. It was great seeing you again, man. Tell Sharon I said hi and everything like that. He leaves, and Oz just leans over. He goes, Zakk, who the fuck was that? Who was that? It's like,
it's Robert Palmer, dude.
Yeah.
That's very Ozzie to sit there and listen to the entire conversation and then wait for him to leave and then ask who he is.
Well, you have to be polite. I think he did the right thing in that
didn't want to
situation.
say, but who are you?
But it's Ozzie Osbourne. If he said that, you can't get more famous than him.
No, but at the time, if it's the same time for Robert Palmer, like, dude, he had the biggest hit in the world with Addicted to Love.
It was probably maybe in the 90s.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So Robert, it was after, that was what, 1980, early 80s, 85 maybe, Addicted to Love and everything like that.
It came out
Oz
with
Oz had no idea, bro. He's like, I don't even know where I'm going. Zakk, who's this? I don't even know who I'm talking to, bro.
So are all the stories about Ozzie true, with like him snorting red ants and, painting the walls with his own feces and shit like that? Or is a lot of it urban legend?
I mean,
did he really live that life?
Tommy Lee, the Motley guys were there for that one.
Yeah, for the dirt. Yeah,
they've seen it all.
Yeah,
the boss.
So it is real.
The boss in his prime, like Walter Payton. Just any of the people we love. When Dick Butkus was in his prime before the knee surgery.
Didn't Dick Butkus rip somebody's helmet off and try to hit him with it one time? I'm pretty sure I saw it all.
I think the guy's head was in the helmet.
In the helmet. Yeah, it was still in there.
He had no head.
Yeah, he went Myles Garrett with it and tried to do it.
Oh my God, so good.
So good. By the way, The Dirt, my favorite rock book I think I've ever read. I'm curious, do you watch these docs when they come out on like Netflix, or read the books from some of the famous guys to be like, all right, oh cool, I want to see if your stories beat my stories?
No, I mean, it's just like the stories that I have on the road, doing like you said, we were saying before, the berserking days, at $57,000 and just booze alone. But I mean, just comedy, because it's, you're not driving. So there is no responsibility whatsoever. There is no such thing as drinking on the job. That's like kind of, people that they advocate drinking on the job if you're in a rock band, you know what I mean? So it's just, nobody's driving. There's zero responsibility, bro. So that's why this behavior kind of, it takes over.
Well, and I would have to imagine, because Ozzie was probably at the top of that list, that everybody was trying to challenge him drug-wise, booze-wise, of like, I can get more fucked up than you, or you can black out first. Did that happen a lot with like other musicians that you guys traveled with, where it was just like, all right.
Yeah, I mean, like if we were all partying together, it was just everybody's having a good time, and you don't realize, 5 bottles of Crown Royal's gone, you know what I mean? So it's just... totally. I agree.
Does your wife know all the stories?
Yeah. without a doubt. There's a lot of comedy, bro. A lot of comedy.
She'd have to be pretty understanding to be like, all right, I'm going to marry this guy. I know exactly what the fuck's going on. Like, was there that conversation before you get married?
She would tell you probably like in the beginning it wasn't that way. And then, what have I gotten myself into? This guy's an idiot.
Oh, that's awesome. Look, this is the point in the show we get to the Drinkin' Bro of the Week, which is someone who has inspired you or helped you become the person you are today. Besides Ozzie Osbourne, who has been that person for you?
Well, yeah, definitely. I think with all of us, your pops, you know what I mean? My dad, for sure. So, but it's just like I always say, like with Oz, people always ask me, they're like, with your dad and Ozzie, like, what did you learn from your dad and Oz? I go, nothing I didn't already know. They just solidified it. You know what I mean? Yeah. Yeah. There's, lions roll with lions and the hyenas roll with hyenas. Mm-hmm. Be a lion. Yeah. I don't know what else more to tell you because, no one wants to hear you complaining. No one wants to hear you whining. Just do what needs to get done. And then so we can go home and sit on the couch.
Yeah, that's true.
And hopefully get a foot rub. I don't know what to tell you.
Is he still with us? Is your dad still alive?
No, Dad, Pat, he made it to 89.
Oh, wow.
Made it to 89, bro. But but like I said, my father never complained. So, same thing with my mother. My mom was around, my dad with the hearing aid and everything from World War II and everything like that. He'd have select hearing, the same thing like with Ozzie, with Robert Palmer. Go, sure. He can't hear a damn thing your mother's saying. Yeah, I go, no, he can't hear a friggin' thing, bro. He can't hear a friggin' thing, bro.
Was he proud?
He's turning life off right there.
Was he proud to see you play and all that stuff? Did he come to shows?
Oh, yeah. I mean, it was hilarious. I mean, because, my dad, my mom and dad, my dad was was 51 when he had me. And, my mom was in her early 40s.
Oh, wow.
So, I mean, but the whole thing is this. I remember when we played Brendan Byrne Arena in Jersey on No Rest for the Wicked tour. We go down there, and there's my mom and dad dressed like they're going to a Sinatra show. With the suit and tie on, the whole 9 yards, a dress on, going to an Ozzie concert, right? And I remember they had their laminates and everything. The security dude is going, where are you guys going? Do you have your pet? Like my dad's like, do I look like I belong at an Ozzie Osbourne concert? Look at me, you friggin' moron. I mean, my dad's a World War II veteran. He's like, he looks like Frank Sinatra showing up at an Ozzie Osbourne concert. I mean, it's just like hilarious, bro. But yeah, he needed like security to get backstage with my mother.
Oh, that's awesome. Look, Zakk Wylde, you were a guitar god, and I know that term gets thrown around a lot. You're actually one of them, man, and it's been an honor to have you on the show today. Tell everyone where they can find you and when you guys are going back on tour next.
Yeah, just Black Label Society, or go on my Zakk Wylde on my Instagram, on the Facebook, on Twitter, all that good stuff. Yeah, but we head out on the road. Black Label goes out on the road, I guess, October 1st through November 28th. We got our buddies in Obituary and Prong rolling with us. And then
you're coming to the Aztec Theater on the 19th of November. We should go down there.
Oh, hell yeah, dude.
San Antonio.
Yeah, if you guys want to come down, talk with Father Blasco, and we'll make sure you guys are all taken care of.
Sure, yeah, we'll definitely come down there. Aztec Theater is a good venue, too.
In San Antonio?
There you go.
Awesome.
Yep.
Awesome.
We'll be bringing our Paul Abdul dance steps. That's coming, bro.
Oh, that's right.
We'll be doing the Super Bowl shuffle. Watch that video on repeat as well. There's some fine dancing going on.
Oh, boy. Can you imagine?
It's a classic.
Fucking Jim McMahon.
That's right. Before we got on air, you said you were working with Paul Abdul. That's fucking awesome, man.
Look, you can't do any worse than the Dirty Bird or Jim McMahon trying to dance. That was a huge mistake on his part.
Yeah. No, just a bunch of the guys in that thing had no business dancing. That's what we look like when we dance, and that's why we're going to bring it to you.
Can't wait.
People are going to be violently ill. That's why right near every seat, there's a puke bucket.
Yeah.
We don't give them bags. There's actually Black Label puke buckets.
Oh, this is a blast. Zakk, thanks for being with us. We greatly appreciate it. For Zakk Wylde, D'Anthony Holloway, I'm Ross Patterson. This is the Drinkin' Bros podcast. Good night, everyone.